a new buzzword that's emerged this year or in the recent months has been taste. Like the taste trumps everything, right? When working with AI, because it can do a lot of these things, but if you don't have the taste to understand what it is that you need to ask for,
Hmm.
then you're just gonna get middle of the road stuff.
Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit ProRelevant.com and make sure you sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. I am the author of the upcoming book, The AI Marketing Machine, and you can find out more information on that at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. And if you go out there now, you'll be able to download the first chapter of my book. And also, you'll find about the upcoming launch date, which is coming up here in the next couple weeks. Anyway, today my guest is Jose Duarte, and he is with Pangea Money Transfer. And let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a product marketing leader based in Dallas with more than 15 years experience. He's worked closely with product and development teams at fast-growing tech companies for over a decade, and he is one of the most tech-savvy marketers I know. He's lately been experimenting with Claude Code in order to create bespoke marketing analytics tools at Pangea, and that's a fintech company where he works based out of Chicago. He's done this with impressive results, including doubling customer acquisition in December 25 and January 2026 at half the cost in comparison to the same time period 1 year earlier. Wow, that's fantastic. And that is what analytics can do. Jose, so welcome. So glad to have you here today.
Before we go any further, a quick pause. This is important. Your sales force is one of the most expensive investments in your company. The real question isn't who's likely to buy someday, it's who should be called right now to create the most value. Traditional propensity models tell you who might convert. Our prescriptive modeling, called COPA, tells you who will convert because you called them. If you manage a large sales organization and want higher conversion, bigger deals, and better use of every rep hour, let's talk. If you want your sales team focused on the calls that matter most, visit prescriptivemodeling.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session.
Thank you. It's great being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's your backstory on AI and marketing? How did you get involved in all this fun stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I started using even before I joined Pangea at my previous company. We started using a little bit of AI. I used it for regular chatbot things that you might already be using it for. Also used it for some features that we added to the app. We generated some images. So I have been using it on and off for various reasons, but this really all kicked into high gear Q4 of last year when the company gave us one of the best KPI goals that we had, which was just go figure out how to use AI and then report back what you learn. And I've been telling people, I don't know if you remember the old Google 20% time that they used to have where, they gave engineers 20% of their time to just pursue whatever you want. And I think things like Gmail came out of that and other big products that you use today. And I think now is one of the best times to give people some of that 20% back time because the things that you can learn to do is really amazing. And so I really took that on and by the letter of the goal, I had already met it because I was already using AI to do reports here and there to help me with some Excel spreadsheets and things like that. But I really wanted to figure out what more we could do. And so I had this really nagging pain with the way that Meta, which is our biggest channel, reported ads. So if you ever run Meta, you know that you can have, the way that you get the report back is really about how Meta bills you, not about how you understand your ads. So you may have the same creative across 20 different ad sets, 30 different campaigns or whatever. And to really be able to get a good understanding of how a particular piece of creative is doing, you have to do VLOOKUPs and you have to, download a bunch of tables, join them, and just do really complicated analysis. And so that's something that it's not that hard to do. It's really not about like, oh, this is like super complicated to do. It's more such a pain to do, and you have to refresh it every time, or you have to download every time, and you have to join everything every time, and like the lookup tables and all that stuff. it just gets really messy. So I really wanted to add another layer on top of it, which was, like I said, the type of creative. And so, for example, for us at Pangea, we may have the same ad go to people who send to Mexico or who send to Colombia or Guatemala. We may have the same ad in Spanish or in English, or we may update what rates we're advertising. And so it really fans out very quickly. And by using Claude, first, actually, I started using Lovable, which is kind of a great, if you've never coded with AI, if you've never used AI for anything more than, ChatGPT, I think Lovable and similar things like that are a very, very good way to start, because it looks just like ChatGPT and it kind of builds the website or whatever you ask it to do right there on the window. And so I was able to figure out how to work with the Meta API, to ingest all this data and add all this creative layering on top of it. And it was so easy and so fast that I took it a step further and actually started building out reports, like pretty reports and graphics that I was able to share with members of the creative team who maybe are not as analytically oriented. And so one of the first things that I developed was a very simple pattern graph where I was able to plot the creative with their actual images, so that it was just a very visual way of plotting them out in a proprietary scoring system that I've been developing for years, that I was never able to do more than like once a month or once a quarter, or just on an ad hoc basis. This suddenly let me do it in real time as many times as I wanted, and then compare it against and benchmark it against any other campaign or any other data that I had. And so I sat down with my creative team and I just showed them this plot, and the insights were so clear so fast. Like, I remember we were sitting there and it's like, oh, dark blue does better than light blue for us. And like, it was just undeniable from the data that we were seeing. And so that was around early December, and that really helped us bet on, okay, these are the ads that we want to keep running, here's the ads that we want to scale. And that's what led to, like you mentioned, like we doubled the December record. And then actually, now that we finished Q1, our Q1 was like by far our biggest Q1 that we've ever had, and the cost was even less than half of what the second biggest quarter was. So we were just able to really scale and really take it just from adding that extra layer on top. That was like, that spoke to us, because like I said, for us, it's about what countries, what audiences, what languages. And so I think part of the future of marketing will be that it's now so easy to create these things that are very, very tailored to your use case, and they're very fast to make. And yeah, that's why I'm so excited to continue exploring what else you can do with AI.
Yeah, that's a great story, and certainly when you can document the success like that, it really makes a difference, and it shows then, what you can do. But now, of course, next quarter you're going to have to do twice as good with half the money.
That's the problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now you've been using these Vibe coding tools. Tell us about what those are and then how you're using them.
Yeah, so like I said, I initially started off using Lovable, and I quickly, within a month or so, started hitting some of the limits of what I could do with it. And I've been working with development teams. I've been working with product managers, so I know my way around code. Just the actual physically typing out the code has never really clicked with me. But I understood a little bit about architecture, software architecture, and kind of how you build something. And so I was able to translate that into just plain using Claude Code on the command line. So I don't recommend everybody do that. Like, the desktop apps that Claude is using are really good, but I've been using, and you know this, like the best model has been changing every month. So I've been using Codex, which is ChatGPT or OpenAI's model. I've been using Claude Code. And then I've also been using Claude Cowork, which I think is another great entry point for people who are just starting to get into more advanced things. Claude Cowork is actually really good for really discrete things like creating reports and creating PDFs and creating Word documents, and working within files on your computer. So it's really a mix of all these things. I've also been learning how to develop my own agents and my own Claude plugins and Claude skills that have really helped me, go faster in what I've been developing.
Yeah, very interesting, and you're right. It's amazing how all of these tools seem to be coming together to be able to do it where we even with a little bit of a software development background, you can have the AI generate the code for you and then get it to work. Even I was able to, get my first Python thing going, which was kind of fun. And yeah, I was just amazed at how easy it was. It took me maybe, 3, 4 hours, and I had a Python thing going just for the fun of it. So
I think one of the most important skills that people need to start developing more is like just really deeply understand the problem that they're facing, because the way I've kind of explained it is, if you remember the movie, I don't know if you saw the most recent Tron movie, but they had this concept in the movie where there was like a barrier where people could go in and out of the computer world. And I kind of understand it that way, in a sense of like, not in the sense that there's like little people running stuff inside your computer, but that up until now, to be able to get the computer to do what you want, you kind of had to translate your business logic, your English, into ones and zeros, right? Because the computer only speaks binary. And if you remember way back when, like, people had to actually punch cards to feed into the computer, which was literally encoding the zeros and the ones into paper. And then every single language since then has just kind of been abstracting, but it's all the way down. At the end of the day, it's still ones and zeros. And the big difference with AI is not that there's a better language now, which it is, but it's not just that. It's that now the translation layer used to be, you had to talk to a product manager who had to talk to a project manager who had to talk to the developers who then translated your intent into code. Now you have, with AI agents, you have somebody living inside the computer, so to speak, that is fully fluent in both binary and in English. And so the translation layer now moved inside the computer. So it's not necessarily about how well you can spec out your idea. It's more about how well can you describe the problem, and how well can you communicate with the AI to get the results that you want. And so it's a bit of I think in that way it's a paradigm shift. And I think that's what a lot of people are experiencing now, and why so many people have started coding with AI.
yeah, interesting. Well, it'll be interesting to see how a creative designer starts writing Python
I mean,
with ChatGPT or something.
I think that's one of the reasons why the usage has definitely taken up more in coding, because it is a more solved, or a more discrete problem. I think in the creative side, I think there's a little bit more challenges there, and so that's one of the things I'm interested in seeing, how it develops in the creative side. And I think there's obviously a lot of friction between creative people and just AI generation in general.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely changing things, and you see some of these larger tech companies or software companies doing letting engineers go. How do you see then all of these coding tools changing the whole tech sector?
I think it's definitely a big challenge. I think, like I said, part of the skills that you have to develop is understanding what you need to ask for. Understanding, like I said, I think I've been doing well with it, because I do have a background, maybe not coding, but working with code or working with coders to understand, like, oh, this is how you assemble a piece of software. This is how all the pieces of something come together. It's definitely getting better, in the sense that you might not be able to do that, like, as much in the future. But I think it's very important to still understand what's going on underneath, even if you're not the one actually coding. So I think a challenge that tech companies still need to face, and I think one of the reasons why people are worried about this, is there's no, it's harder to come up, right? Like, there's value in being a junior developer and learning to code simple things, and then kind of growing into the role. And so if AI just becomes really easy, and you don't need to be a junior developer anymore, there's no need for junior developers anymore, then how do the senior developers, how do you get new senior developers? And so I think that's still a bit of an unsolved problem. I honestly don't know how that is gonna go, but I definitely think it's something that we need to talk about. Not to mention the layoffs and all that. That there's definitely a lot of people who are having a hard time with that.
Quick pause. This is important for any marketing leader. Marketing must continuously prove its value, or the budgets dry up. Marketing mix models provide that proof in a way finance and leadership can believe. And we at ProRelevant help teams answer critical questions. Which campaigns actually worked? Which channels really moved the needle? And where should the next dollar go? With over 20 years of experience across complex marketing environments, we know how to deliver clarity, not guesswork. To learn more, go to mmm.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session. And now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, well, and I agree with you. There is a huge challenge because the simple stuff can now be done, so to speak, by the senior guy, and he doesn't need to take too much time at it. Number one, but at some point you need new senior guys. And
Yeah.
and they don't just grow on trees. They have to grow, organically from doing some simple things and learning more about the business, and then doing more complex things, and then learning and growing. And
I
unfortunately, or that these tech companies, and even any company is going to have to reckon with
No,
that.
I think everybody who has managed people or has had junior people that they work with has ever had the experience of like, well, I could do this in 5 minutes, or I could give it to the junior that's going to take 3 hours to do it, and then I'm still going to have to review it. There's still value in giving it to the junior so that they get better and understand, right? Like delegating is a thing, and it's a skill. And so, yeah, I definitely think there needs to be some understanding of how that's going to happen, because I think right now every news you read is entry level jobs are the ones that are hurting the most.
Mm.
And I definitely think that there needs to be some solution there, but it's definitely above my pay grade to figure out.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely above mine and yours too. Now, so we talked a little bit about the tech sector, but what about marketing? How do you see it, all of this ability for, so to speak, the layperson to be able to do some almost deep analytics, maybe not deep, deep, but maybe mid deep, so to speak, analytics to be able to improve their overall marketing activities. What do you think is going to happen then in the marketing industry?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's kind of, in a way, it's a continuation of a trend that I've seen ever since I started, which was there used to be a very bright line separation between the marketing analytics people and the marketing creative people. And, usually you met once a week, you fought it out because they really like an ad, and the data people said the ad wasn't working, and you just kind of duke it out to see who wins. I think what's happening in a lot of ways is that bridge is closing, and I think if you're on the creative side, I think it behooves you to understand a lot more about analytics, because there's definitely going to be a lot of more optimizations that happen that way, and creative needs to be a lot more data informed, both on the generative side or the creative side, but then also on the delivery side. And then the other big challenge that I see is for agencies or people who just specialize in media buying. I think media buying is a skill that's actually, in a way, it's a little bit like the junior developers, where if you go on Facebook, every update that Facebook or Meta launches, it kind of takes away the media buying skill a little bit more. It's just like, hey, just give us your ads, and we'll figure out who to show it to, when to show it to them, for how much, etc. Like, you don't need to do any about that. And they're even now starting to get to a place where it's just like, just give us a product description and we'll take care of it. I don't know if that's going to work. I think there's still a lot of value in standing out, and AI tends to go to the lowest common, not lowest common denominator, but like kind of, it just kind of averages out to everything looking
Yeah,
a little bit
the
samey
average.
if you're not
Yep.
careful. So, but I think, like I said, I think the data informed creative side, even if you talk to Meta, if you talk to a Meta rep, the first thing they'll tell you is creatives and new targeting. They say, right? So like before, you used to go on Meta and you had to put in, I want people who like, I don't know, 20 different things, and I want them to be here, and I want them to speak this language and be between these ages, and da 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 da. And now it's like, if you make an ad that's going to appeal to an 18-year-old in Chicago, just put it out and we'll show it to everybody, but within 10 minutes we'll figure it out and we'll find those 18-year-olds in Chicago that you want to target. And so, and that, like I said, that used to be like a huge media buying function, and it just used to be a huge service for agencies that I think, if they're not careful, they're going to be left behind, or like it's just going to be a very outdated way of doing the work. And I think obviously Meta and TikTok and those types of networks are at the forefront of that, and they, with their algorithmic delivery. But that's probably going to bleed into everything else soon enough.
Yeah. Well, that ability to optimize on the fly is incredible. And you can, like you said, you can put out some creative and put in a target, and then it'll slowly or quickly get to the audience that you want, and then that then leads to just increasing effectiveness rates, and really then drives the value of that ad up, and it's really impressive. I guess maybe, just thinking out loud, I'm wondering if I am the media buyer, if I can do that better to start with. So if there's like a curve that it takes the optimization, a certain amount of time to get there, and I don't know what that time is, let's say it's 30 days. If I, as the media buyer, can make that done in 15 days or in 10 days, then I've bought, 15 or 20 days of advertising spend, because now I'm being, as highly focused as I can with the money that I've got.
The problem is that it's taking 3 to 4 days now, or even less. You
Yeah,
know,
well, it depends on the media channel, but
of
it's
course,
like,
yes, yes, yes.
but yeah, whatever that time is, if I can reduce that by half by being a smarter media buyer, and then of course, I hate to say it, the AI is going to say, "Wow, these guys really started off good. And what is behind their thinking that I can
right.
use to, get there in 1.5 days instead of
Yeah,
three
no, I
days?"
mean, I think the muscle that I've been trying to exercise more is just the testing muscle, right? Like I think it's not necessarily about finding the right sector, but it's more about how do we design tests that give us the most insights that we can
Mm,
then bring back. And so, at Pangea, like I said, the quadrant graph that I made wasn't the be all end all. That's what told us like, hey, these types of ads are working. Now let's iterate on those, right? Like, and so what it helped me do is it didn't take me 30 days or 15 days and like a full media budget to find out that that light blue wasn't working for me. It took me a couple of days, and then I was able to, in the next week's creative meeting, just talk to the creative team. And I think there is a bit of a myth that creatives don't like the data. Creatives that I've worked with, they love having good data because they, at the end of the day, they just want something that hits with people. And if you can bring something more than voodoo or just unscrutable numbers, and now it's like, hey, no, actually, we ran this experiment. Here was the holdout. Here's what we did, and we did use AI to set it up and to run it. But here's what the results are saying. Like they're actually pretty receptive to that feedback, in my experience.
yeah, I agree with that. Although the difference, though, is that they're not necessarily the ones that are going to take the raw data and do the analytics on it, but they will take the results of that analytics, and I agree with you. The best creatives will take the results of that, and they will hone their skills and the creatives that they develop based on what the analytics gives them. And that's then, yeah, I think that's where the best creatives are. And they are definitely there, no question, they're the best creatives are worth so much money. When I think about, I don't know, the Aflac duck is the one that always comes to mind. Well, two things there. One of them was to come up with the duck, and the second one was have the guts to actually put it into the market.
Right.
And that's then where the business acumen as well as the creative acumen has to come together. And I just can't see an AI engine coming up with an Affleck concept, or the duck concept, so to speak, and be able to do as well as it did, because that company it just hockey stick right out there. The Affleck duck was there, and then whoom, I mean, they just took right off.
Yeah, I mean, one of the mantras I go by whenever I work with AI is, hey, you have to talk to it like a human, but always remember that it's a machine. And so that's kind of how how you avoid, I think, AI psychosis a little bit of like, no, yeah, you have to talk to it like a human, but understand how it works, understand what is an LLM, like how does it generate and all that, because as we talked about before, LLMs tend to always converge at the middle of everything, right? So there's not a lot of originality in the middle because it's just the average of what everyone else has done. And so if you really want to, the breakthrough ad campaigns are the ones that do take that risk, take that, and things are like, hey, is this going to work? Maybe, maybe not. But like you said, you have to have the. I think that's why a new buzzword that's emerged this year or in the recent months has been taste. Like the taste trumps everything, right? When working with AI, because it can do a lot of these things, but if you don't have the taste to understand what it is that you need to ask for,
Hmm.
then you're just gonna get middle of the road stuff. And so
Yeah.
you can get good stuff out of AI, but only if you know how to direct it well.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So, wow, I can't believe we're almost out of time here. A great discussion, and love the detailed analytics, and of course, I'm an analytics guy, and then also the industry implications, just fantastic. I do have one last question for you, though, and that is, what advice would you give to an up and coming new marketer?
Ooh, I think there's no specialization anymore between creative and unless you're just doing creative, but if you're just kind of a generalist marketer, I think being able to weave in between the creative and the analytics world is one of the most important skills. I think one of the things that AI is doing is it just, if you know a little bit about everything, AI can be the thing that brings everything together. And so I think marketers tend to wear a lot of hats, and a lot of, you might be jumping into CRM one day and then Facebook ads and then working with analytics and then working with the creative. And it's hard to specialize when you do that, right? And I think that's one of the things that one of the challenges of the industry. But I think for somebody up and coming, just being able to understand a little bit about everything and then just being curious with AI, asking AI, hey, why does this, not just like tell AI how to do things, but explain it to me, explain it back to me. Why does it work? How does this work? One of the ways I've been able to ship apps to the App Store, for example, and learn about Swift concurrency, which is how you work with processors, is because I told AI, hey, explain it back to me like a marketer, because it's a very technical thing and I don't understand it. So that's what I would say is ask the AI to explain it back to you, and in terms that you can use, just tell it, I'm XYZ, this is my experience, or this is how I want you to talk to me. Explain it, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. I like that. That is a good tip. So fantastic. Well, Jose, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, where can folks learn more about you and your company?
So yeah, we are PangeaMoneyTransfer.com. And you can find it also in the Android and iOS App Store if you need to send money to abroad, that from the US. That's one of the best ways to do so. And then personally, I've been working on a couple of projects, but right now I'm promoting an app called Dock Pops, which is an organizer that helps you make iPhone folders and put them in the dock of your Mac. So if you have a Mac dock that is full of icons, you can check that out.
Fantastic. What was it called? What was it
Dock
called?
Pops.
Doc Pops.
DOCK, yeah, DOCKPOPS.com.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to check that out because I've got hundreds of, and my wife too. She's got hundreds of files on her desktop, and they need organization. Most of them just need to be deleted, but nevertheless, they need some organization. I
AI
appreciate
is
that.
pretty good for that if you're brave.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It is pretty good at that. Absolutely. Well, anyway, Jose, thank you so much. And definitely for the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in the series of backstory on marketing and AI. And definitely go to marketingmachine.prorelevant.com and download the first chapter of my book. And stay tuned. Sign up for new news because the book that I've just gotten done written, I've just given it to the final editor, and it will be available in a couple of weeks here. So stay tuned. And otherwise, Jose, again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the time.
Absolutely.